This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Today's episode of Doc and Jock is brought to you by Score, a new mobile app coming soon. Score is an interactive game that lets users win deals at bars and restaurants based on what's going on in live sporting events. Find new places to watch games and save money on your bill at the same time by taking advantage of Score's unique interactive specials that give you an additional stake in the action. A Score special can be anything a location wants it to be, from 10% off an item if a team scores a touchdown to a free round of drinks if a quarterback throws for 400 yards. Any stat can be turned into a game. Pick the deals you want to win, watch the games you want to watch, and score deals in real time. The app will update when your team or player records a relevant stat. When the conditions of your deal are met, coupons are sent to your device to show your server or bartender. It's that easy. Score is coming to the App Store and Google Play soon. For more information, check them out on the web at score-app.io and follow them on Twitter and Instagram at ScoreDeals. Score, watch games, score deals.
Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Another episode of Doc and Jock is now available for download for everybody out there across the internet. Thank you so much for finding us. We always enjoy recording these podcasts. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz?
Man, there's a ton of stuff to talk about today. I mean, I was putting this rundown together, and it's bursting at the seams, and we even had to sit there and omit stuff. I mean, we had to keep it extremely focused on local topics and what's going on in the area. There's a giant national story that's just unfolding in front of us. I mean, you got Rick Pitino getting canned. You got all kinds of things going on with college basketball. You got protests going on with the National Football League and President Trump sitting there running his mouth. I mean, it's just amazing how much stuff is actually going on, and we have a limited amount of time because, let's be honest, our listeners have a limited amount of attention. So we got to sit there and we got to keep it real local, man, but we've got so much stuff to talk about today.
Real quickly, most people aren't surprised that college athletes, people that are being recruited, are taking a bunch of money. It's just now when the FBI is looking at it, it's just now on a much bigger scale. And when you look at, I think some of the numbers that were thrown about, $75,000 to $100,000 to potential college basketball recruits, many now are saying, look, the system is broken. Before, we would talk about it and kind of go, ha, yeah, it's going on, the $100 handshakes, and we would kind of poo-poo it a little bit. But when it gets into the scale of the hundreds of thousands of dollars, the FBI gets involved. And when the government's peeking at you, you got to shut it down. And unfortunately, maybe a program like Louisville has to get the death penalty to shut this down. You have to sometimes lay the hammer down on a program to tell everybody else, look, we know you're doing it. If you try it, you're going to be eviscerated. You're going to lose your program in the death penalty. Sometimes it has to happen.
I mean, the best way I can describe it to you, imagine going to a hotel room. You know what's on those sheets. And until you take that black light to it, you're not completely disgusted and totally turned off from sleeping in those bed sheets. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what the FBI did. They came in and they showed you the black light, and you're like, oh man, there's all kinds of other dude stains all over that bed. That's disgusting. And that's what this is. I mean, a guy like Rick Pitino, everybody knows Rick Pitino's dirty. Everybody knows. I mean, look at the guy. He looks like he's a mobster in New York. Like, you can just tell he's sleazy and greasy, just like Calipari. Everybody knows, right? But now you got the proof. And how many times has Rick Pitino been able to sit there and just kind of step to the right, step to the left, and dodge everything that was coming his way? And you know what? He can't dodge anything anymore. I mean, you're absolutely right. The death penalty might have to be served up to Louisville. I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think the NCAA has the balls to do it. They used it the one time, maybe two times before. I don't think they'll ever use it again, just because I don't think they have the onions to be able to do it. But a program like Louisville, with everything that's been going on, whether it be with hookers, whether it be with the feds, whether it be with just money laundering and money being handed off to different guys, in Rick Pitino's own personal life, where he's sitting there banging waitresses in Italian restaurants. I mean, there has been nothing but a storm of controversy that has surrounded this guy. And Louisville should get the tax taken to him.
Irregardless of what fans think, I mean, even our supporters, 80% on our Twitter poll at Detroit Podcast, would take the $75,000. My Twitter question was, would you take $75,000 to play sports for your favorite college team? Most people are going to take the money and worry about the consequences later, because when the numbers get that high, it's a test of your ethics, and that's life-changing money for some families. And I don't begrudge people for thinking about taking it, because that can get you potentially from maybe a 300 square foot, house that everybody's cramped in. It can change your family's life, and I don't begrudge people for doing it. It's about money sometimes, but at the same time, when it gets into the $75,000 range, $100,000 range, that's a little bit much, because, hey, the FBI wants a piece too. The IRS, they want a little bit of the scratch too, because most people aren't declaring their $100,000 gift. So don't think that this is all done for the best interest of college athletes. Look, the IRS became aware that, look, there's some money floating around here that's not documented, and they go, oh, FBI, go look at how much is it. And when it gets to those big numbers, if they were getting a piece of it, if they were getting some of that tax money, they wouldn't investigate. They wouldn't care. It's just one of those things. It's about money, baby.
And look at it like this, right? So you're a great player. You're an AAU basketball player. You're like on ESPN's like top 10, top 25, whatever it is. You're $75,000 to go play for a year. That's going to help your family out. On top of that, you're almost guaranteed when you're done, when you come out of school, guess who you get a shoe contract with? You get it with Adidas, because Adidas is roped into all this, right? So you get it with Adidas, and then you already have a financial planner and a financial advisor who's going to sit there. Of course, he's going to take his cut, but you got a guy who's supposedly, and I'm using finger quotes here, looking out in your best interest. So, yeah, hello, where can I sign up for this deal?
Cuz you're doing a lot. When you prep for a show, you're doing a lot of reading, you're looking at potential things to get credentialed for, and I forgot the easiest thing to do. I didn't charge my computer for today. So I went to turn it on, and there's the button that says, oh, you forgot to charge it. So I actually kind of like it now. I can kind of just sit here and free flow it a little bit and just check out my phone and such, but I feel really good that I came here unprepared to record this podcast.
Well,
but I got a lot.
Then.
I got a lot in the old keister up here in my head, and we got a lot to talk about. We're gonna break down the Lions game. I mean, when I recall and when I go to YouTube and say, wait a minute, we did a podcast 2 years ago where we were ranting and raving about being screwed, and we begged and pleaded for Jim Caldwell to do something. I said it, and I tagged you in it on Tuesday. I said, look, at the 14-minute mark, we said, this stuff's going to keep happening. Jim Caldwell just going to be a nice guy, and nice guys always finish last. And lo and behold, 2 years later, that was episode 113. We're at episode 216. We're still talking about the league screwing the Lions. But we'll talk about the play that everybody's talking about, and we'll give our take on it. No doubt about it. We'll look at Michigan State, what's going on with them. And to finish off the podcast, we'll have the DocNJock Pro-Wresting Report, and we'll sprinkle in some Tigers baseball, no doubt about it. But I do want to recap my opportunity to go to Media Day for the Detroit Pistons. Rolled up early. I think that's the biggest thing. My biggest counsel to people is, look, others are going to show up right at the time. So the event was on Monday. Media Day across the NBA was pretty much by and large on Monday. So all the teams in the NBA started to have their players, and the call time was 1 p.m. I showed up like at 12:20, kind of just walked around the Palace a little bit and kind of saw a little bit of some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. It was really cool. They were taking their photos and some of the behind-the-scenes stuff with Fox Sports Detroit. So I kind of just walked around a little bit. Now, lo and behold, my pass would just say you're just obligated to go to the press room. But nobody's really checking because I don't really have an official season pass. So I'm just kind of walking around with my bag, which kind of I think is going to be my thing, is I'm going to carry the computer bag because I look real official. So I'm walking around. Nobody's asking.
Look legit, huh?
Yeah, I'm kind of the people are looking around like, well, this guy doesn't look real familiar. And I always got that kind of deer in the headlights look because I don't really exactly always know where I'm going. And so I'm just kind of walking around, seeing some players, seeing some photos, stuff like that. So I finally find the press room, and I get there real early, and I see some of the other reporters and stuff like that. All of a sudden, around 1 o'clock, then all the radio guys are there, all the newspaper guys are there, the TV crews are all set up. They're starting to do some of the audio stuff. And then it was just real simple. Stan Van came up, did his piece. You start firing off questions. Then each player, one by one, came in. And you know what the best part is? Obviously, the print media has to, kind of gear their questions to the story they're writing. A lot of them were, hey, what did you think about Donald Trump and the protests? What is the Pistons going to do? A lot of questions based on that. And then you got the radio guys kind of just getting some sound and stuff like that, just kind of getting a sense of, how the offseason was, certain things like that. The best part about being me is I kind of could ask whatever I wanted. I kind of asked a question and posed a question to Ish Smith that kind of had him floored, and it's in a report on CBS Detroit. I asked him basically straight up, I said, so who's the team to beat in the East? Did you think it's Cleveland, or now is it Boston with the moves they made? And he goes, I'm not really sure what to say, but he's, kind of went off and gave a professional answer. But the thing that I noticed was I just had a question in my head, and I just kind of took a couple seconds to kind of formulate it and said, okay, I'm just going to fire it off. And I didn't care if I overstepped someone's bounds or whatever. I just kind of tried to wait for whoever it was to get off their sentence, and I just fired off. So I fired off at least 4 to 5 questions, taped a couple, got them on there. And the thing that I realized is, look, at first you're going to feel intimidated, but there were guys there that are on the station I'm not going to name. There were guys on the ticket just sitting in the front with their legs sprawled out, some journalists high-fiving some of the Pistons. So the quote-unquote journalistic part of things isn't exactly there, but I can understand why. You want to have a relationship with these guys, and you can tell, though, that the true definition of journalism where you're biased is not there. You got some, reporters high-fiving the players. You got people kind of taking it all chill and stuff. And you had some reporters asking some really unusual questions. But the good thing is, for me, it took me about 5 minutes to feel comfortable because I said to myself, look, I'm here among this group of people. Who the hell let me in here? But in the end, being somebody that interviews people basically for a living, I talk to people. I've done this podcast with you. The intimidation wore off in 5 minutes. And I said to myself, I can fire off really any questions because at the end, we're doing it on a trial basis. We have a following. They let us in here. So that was the attitude I had. And it really worked out. And I just got a lot of information. I hope the coverage that was presented from our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast was cool and everybody liked it. But the one thing I'll say is get there early, get up front. Don't sit in the back and let every reporter just fire off questions because there's damn near 30 people in that little room, and there's people going to be firing off questions that they need answered. So for me, it just was an unbelievable experience to ask questions and to get a laugh out of Stan Van Gundy, to ask questions of Ish Smith, to ask Reggie Jackson how he was feeling. And by the end, though, I didn't stay for the last couple guys because it went from like 1 to 3:30, and there were still like 4 guys left. So I said, okay, I got what I needed. I got the tone of what people are talking about. And I just, if you're going to one of these things, I definitely agree with what Sky Kirstein told me. Sometimes just go to one and just listen and write down what the questions are. A lot of them, you realize, you know what? I could formulate that question. A lot of guys, too, kind of ask questions a little bit loose, like long-winded questions and sometimes going off in different directions. There were some awful questions that were asked, and I'm like, oh, boy. But the one thing that I appreciate is people told me, look, just go there, have fun, learn, and listen to the others that are doing their job. And so after I kind of seen Justin Rose and seen him doing some of the TV stuff and seen Jennifer Hammond doing some of the stuff too. So it was nice to get down into the bowels of the palace and be part of Media Day. It was really cool. It meant a lot for the network. It meant a lot for us. And it was really cool to see.
He's a pretty cool guy to sit there and just kind of link up with at those things. Justin Rose is a friend of the podcast, of course. Who was the most interesting guy that you got to sit there and interview and ask questions? What was the best response, I guess?
Andre Drummond was fascinating in that he was definitely hounded by all the PR staff. People were like, whoa. When Andre walked in, there were about 4 staff there waiting to see. And he's kind of a little bit loose with his answers. And some of it got reported in terms of using the BS word and really talking about what last season meant to him and the disappointment. And he said, look, it's time for me to step it up. And he acknowledged it. But the most fascinating question was, I wish I could have formulated a psychological question because Reggie Jackson gave like 3 to 4 4-minute answers, kind of talking about how he's introverted, how he lives in his head, and how sometimes, the talk that he had with his brother last year kind of helped him through some tough times. And he seems like a really introspective guy and a guy that's maybe not so comfortable in the limelight, especially with some of the reactions he's gotten from some things he said. So I really wanted to sit with him and just be like, maybe get to know him a little bit more and be like, yeah, how do you handle being introspective, but having 40 people ask you questions? And then he kind of pulled a little bit of a move there where he had a little camera and he kind of held it off and he introduced himself as like, hey, I'm the Flavor Flav today. And people were like, what is that around your neck? He's like, I got a camera here. I'm going to snap photos of you guys. It was a little bit unusual, but I rolled with it. But everybody that asked him a question, he kind of just went, boop, kind of snapped a picture, and it was a little bit unusual.
It is
a little unusual, but I get a sense that he's not exactly comfortable with the media spotlight. So sometimes he overcompensates and is a little bit silly and a little bit of a guy that can be long-winded. And so Tobias Harris was kind of giving him the wrap-up sign because he was giving like 5-minute answers. So
do you think we're going to have like a Meta World Peace moment with him where he just kind of goes off the deep end and loses?
No,
his mind?
I think that he'll be more withdrawn. I mean, he was interviewed by The Ticket earlier on Wednesday, so he's starting to do the process and work the media scene. But all in all, it was a great experience. We got a lot of video, a lot of coverage, and a lot of hits. People are interested in the coverage that we're providing regarding the Detroit Pistons, and I hope that the opportunity is still there. The line of communication is great with the Pistons. It's on an email basis right now, and it's going great. But more, like I texted you, more work to be done because, you know me, I'm going to toot my own horn a lot of times, but at the same time,
every chance you get.
Every chance I get, I'm going to toot my own horn because look what we've done. We took it from the basement to media day of the Pistons. But I know, the Pistons are in need of a little bit more attention and some love. But I also asked Stan Van Gundy the most relevant question that made news was, hey, what do you think about Andre's comments regarding Little Caesars? He gave the political answer. He gave a funny answer. But at the same time, I was there in the mix asking the proper questions. I just now need a little bit more validation in terms of what we're doing here. But I think I got it because, the other podcast network was there too, but on behalf of somebody else, and they gave us compliments regarding what we're doing. And people seeing me there are like, okay, because all I'm going to do is keep saying, who let the podcast guy in here and just promote it? Like, look, we worked our way, not because we're great broadcasters, not because we're some hot thing. It's just that we worked hard and we asked. That's all we did. We busted our butt and we had the vision to go and try it. And hey, we belong. No doubt about it. We belong. And that's what I want everybody at the network that listens to this knows, that we belong. You go out there and you act like you know what you're doing because we belong and people are recognizing us, and it's only going to get bigger and better. No doubt about it. I'm not the Jim Caldwell of the podcast. No doubt about it. I see something I don't like, I'm going to bring it up. And pretty soon, maybe I'll start making some waves and make even bigger demands because when, I told you, look, I'm going to get credentialed, you probably laughed in my face and said, okay, that's never going to happen.
Oh, no, I figured eventually it would happen.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I figured eventually it would happen.
It's pretty interesting to see what happens. But in regards to the Detroit Lions, oh, my God, bro. I was hurt, man. When that play happened, me and Andrea were watching it. We had an event prior, so we missed kind of the first quarter, but we got into the game, and the Lions did as well after trailing 17-3. They worked their way back. They did a lot of great things, and that final drive was outstanding. But in the end, we don't get the payoff, man. The rules got us. The Zebras got us.
Again. How many times?
But they got the call right. They got the call right, but what's your take on the runoff rule, man? It's pretty shitty. At the same time, now it's going to be called the Golden Tate rule. And we all know at the end of the year, it's going to be revoked. It's going to be changed.
I didn't like it. But again, this team...
How'd you react to it? How'd it go down for you?
Well, I was sitting there watching the game, and I was standing in front of my TV naked. I was in the middle of trying to get ready, get my stuff all ready for hockey, and I was getting ready. I was waiting till the end of the game so I could jump in the shower, so I had already disrobed, and I'm sitting there just waiting for the final seconds to tick off the clock, and I'm waiting for the Lions to sit there and pull this one out. And when Golden Tate got in, I sat there and sent the message out like, hey, we got a football team. We actually have a football team. This is awesome. And then all of a sudden, like it was like time stopped. Like time just froze. And I was like, oh no. This is gonna. I watched the replay and I was like, there's no way they can overturn this. They called it a touchdown on the field. There's not enough evidence. They can't overturn this. And then they come back and they say, yeah, it's overturned. And there's going to be a 10-second runoff. And, of course, Dean Blandino was just on. I hate Dean Blandino. I want to punch him in the face. So at that point, I was like, are you serious? Like, it felt like my heart got ripped out of my chest. It was brutal. And look, I don't like the runoff rule. I thought the Lions totally got screwed at the end here. I think it's obvious, blatantly obvious. We do have a good football team. If you go back and you rewatch that, you got to go based on what the initial call was. The initial call was a touchdown. Watching that tape over and over and over again, I cannot, me myself, and I watched it like 4 or 5 times, I cannot definitively say that he was not in the end zone, that ball, a small portion of it did not cross the line. I don't know how they sat there and they did that, how they came to that ruling, how they came to that agreement. And then, of course, you have the 10-second runoff, which just blows my mind because if this was any other play, where the officials don't stop the clock. The officials stop the clock. If Golden Tate would have just been, they would say, okay, nope, he's down at the half-yard line. They'd have sat there, spotted the ball, Lions would have got up to the ball, and they'd have been able to get one more snap off. The Lions deserved at least one more snap in this game, and let them blow it. Don't take the game from them. Let them blow it. They deserved one more snap. I don't care how you have to sit there and figure it out. Whether you're like, look, you just set the ball up and you get one on time down. I don't care what it was. Something had to happen there where the Lions totally got screwed and they deserved one more shot at the end zone.
Do you agree or disagree with Jim Caldwell's continued passive stance?
Oh, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I wish somebody from the Lions organization would stand up and make some noise. You know who this wouldn't have happened to? This wouldn't have happened to Tom Brady. This wouldn't have happened to the Dallas Cowboys because Jerry Jones would have lost his mind. And you know what those two organizations have in common? They've got owners who are so ingrained in the NFL. And they've got people who are so out there that they walk either hand in hand with Roger Goodell or they're sitting there and they're powerful enough to make things happen that Roger Goodell wants to happen. Martha Ford, not so much. Ron Wood, not so much. Jim Caldwell's Captain Passive Aggressive. Matt Stafford, I wish he would have threw a tantrum. I threw a tantrum at work the other day because I was so pissed off about what was going on. I wish Matt Stafford would have sat there, took a helmet, broke it into shards, and then stabbed somebody on the field. Yeah. I'd have been okay with that. I don't care. Make a statement. Something. Somebody please have some heart. Somebody please show some emotion. Like, let me know that you feel the burn from this too. You know who the only one was? It was Golden Tate, and they caught a small glimpse of it, and then he hurried up and he tucked it right back into his shirt. He tucked it right back into his little pocket by his chest, and he swallowed it all and stuck it way down deep in his belly. Hey, you know what, Golden Tate? Take your helmet, slam it against the ground, get mad, get pissed off, scream at an official. Do something, somebody, because you know what happens? It's just going to happen again. We just constantly keep getting screwed and screwed and screwed. The only reason you know about the process is because Calvin Johnson got screwed on that play. The whole thing with what happened with Dallas during the playoff game is because the Lions got screwed on that play. How many times do the Lions have to sit there and be the reason for a rule? You now have the Calvin Johnson rule. You got the pass interference that wasn't a pass interference or that was a pass interference. There are rules upon rules upon rules that the Lions are just a part of. How many times is this organization going to be taken advantage of by the league?
A lot. And the issue is that it's been going on now throughout the tenure of Jim Caldwell, and we get to see it for the next couple seasons. Last week, they resigned Jim Caldwell. This is our guy. Bob Quinn, going into that for one moment, I think he made a mistake. I feel like you and I both agree that why not just play it out? But this whole notion of a lame duck coach doesn't fly in the coaching circles, and so they made the move. I don't agree with it, but in the end, Jim Caldwell's going to be the guy. So when you got a head coach that's so passive and the way that he goes about handling situations like this, it doesn't give you confidence that this is ever going to stop. So we got to live with it. We got to come to terms with the fact that it is truly Detroit versus the referees, Detroit versus everybody, and you're going to have to go out there and not basically, for those that watch the UFC, you can't leave it in the hands of the judges. That's why you play with fire every time you play these close games. When you play such close games, you give the referees a chance to screw you. And why not the Lions having it called inconclusive? Why in our own house do they change the call in front of our fans and everybody like that? Hey, do you think there would have been an uproar by the Falcons if it was just ruled inconclusive?
No. There's nothing they could say because the call on the field is what's supposed to supersede it. Here's the thing. If this game happened in Atlanta, would they have sat there and would they have changed the rule? No, absolutely not. But you know what? They'll do it to Detroit. They'll spit in our face. It's like we're not good enough. No matter how hard we try, no matter what we do, we're not good enough. We're the redheaded stepchildren of the NFL. We're the bastard child of the league. And you know what? I'm tired of it. I'm sick and damn tired of it. There's a big difference between being 3-0 and 2-1. You're 3-0 and you sit there and you knock off the best team in the NFC. You're somebody. You are somebody. You sat there and you lose because the referees take a game away from you and you lose by 4 points. You know what you are? You're just in the middle class. You're just there. You're not really anybody. You're a team to maybe be watched. You might be competitive. Watch this game come back and burn us. Watch this game come back and hurt us in the end. Watch, we're going to end up playing Green Bay for the division. I predicted it when we sat there and we went through the entire season. We're going to end up playing Green Bay for the division at the end of December, and you know what's going to happen? There's going to be injuries, somebody's going to get hurt, and the Lions are going to end up blowing that damn game by a point or two. And you know what? We're going to be looking back up at Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. You can't get around the guy. It's so unfortunate. It's absolutely ridiculous.
When you look at this team, again, what do we talk about in terms of their weaknesses? The running game. I feel like Amir Abdullah, week in, week out, has been given the opportunity to establish himself as the number one, and he hasn't done it. And did you see how frustrated I got when late in the game they called 2 straight running plays?
Yeah.
I mean, you killed a series trying to stick to the run. Unfortunately, aren't you getting to the point now where you can make definitive statements on Amir Abdullah? Maybe he's still injured. Maybe he's not 100%. But whatever it is, he's not hitting the holes properly. The holes aren't exactly where they need to be as well. That offensive line continues to make a couple mistakes that are costly throughout games. But I think it's fair right now that we can start making concrete statements about Amir Abdullah. He's not the guy. This is a guy that's hurting the team. And when you have a running game and you're committed to it in your offense, it's going to be a problem. And it's so frustrating when you see other running backs that you could have had maybe come in here. But Bob Quinn made the decision to invest in the offensive line, hoping that Amir Abdullah is the guy. So while I definitely have shown a lot of love to Bob Quinn, 2 areas that are huge demerits that might even have higher value to me. Re-signing Jim Caldwell and not picking up another running back might be decisions that he made that could seriously affect the Lions going forward. And unfortunately, with the good, you got to also talk about the bad. I'm not happy with Amir Abdullah. I think you got to seriously evaluate what you got going on in that running game. It's hurting the team.
And here's the thing. I think you're dead on, all right? I don't think Amir Abdullah is the guy. I think Amir Abdullah's a piece. He's your change of pace back. He's your third down back, right? He's essentially the guy that Theo Riddick is. And in this game, they should have utilized Theo Riddick a lot more. You could have sat there, did more bubble screens. You could have did more play action passes where you sit there, you fake the run to him, you let him get out into the flats, then you dump it off to him, and then you let him go pick up yards. He's amazing at sitting there picking up the yak. You know what I'm saying? It just, the yards after the catch are incredible with this guy. So get the ball into his hands and let him make a play. That's all you have to do. Somebody else who's a complete disaster and a waste of time on this team, and who just, I don't understand why you go to him late in drives. Twice. Late when it was all on the line and everything counted, they go to Eric Ebron. And Eric Ebron can't catch a football to save his life.
This is bad.
Yes, it is, Adam. It is bad. He was the reason that you go out and you drafted him so high was he was supposed to be a game changer. He was supposed to be Jimmy Graham-like, Rob Gronkowski-like. And he's not. That guy can't even hold their jock strap. He sits there and he drops the ball, or he doesn't even make the right play on the ball, and he puts his team behind the 8 ball every single time. I don't understand why. Look, it got so bad that the announcers were like, wouldn't you go to a more reliable option than him? When the announcers are calling him out, that's a problem. That is bad.
It was unbelievable. Everybody that's been looking at Eric Ebron, I mean, Jim Caldwell stood up to bat for him and said, look, he's been catching the ball in practice, but really, in the end, nobody cares. All we care about,
some stick 'em. I don't care. Something. You can't be dropping footballs, man.
You can't be dropping multiple passes per game and hurt the offense. It's unbelievable that Eric Ebron had that kind of performance. It was atrocious. It was atrocious, and the running game wasn't that good. Again, you had some penalties on the offensive line. You had a situation where Ziggy Ansah didn't have the similar game that you thought he would have, like coming off of the game versus the Giants, but the defense did a solid job.
That's a good defense, dude. A real good. The one thing I took out of this game, that's a good defense.
That's a good defense. What we can honestly say about the Detroit Lions is they're going to compete. I feel like this could be a rallying cry. I understand that the season is going to be tougher as the schedule kind of comes up for them going on the road versus Minnesota, but I feel like this could be a rallying cry. I feel like, you know what? The good thing is, at this point in time, with the 2017 version of the Lions, is we're going to compete. I don't think we're going to get blown out in too many games. You're going to have those games where you don't exactly look sharp, or you have those games where you do get blown out. But by and large, I feel like we're going to be in a lot of games. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be conservative at some times in the offense and in defense, in terms of trying to stay in games, because that's just Caldwell's philosophy. So I'm kind of getting used to it. But at the same time, the things that are concerning continue to hurt the team, in that when you have the edict, stick to the run, and it doesn't work, it causes problems. And it might be too much for them to overcome, because I feel like this game coming up versus Minnesota, if Case Keenum is on point like he has been, this is a quarterback that you've been able to kind of rattle when he was with the Rams. But with Minnesota, that offense has the potential to be potent, and it could be a shootout. And I'm hoping that the Lions are up for a challenge like that again, because going up against Minnesota on the road, first divisional game. I don't want to see a situation that happened 2 years ago, because if you recall what happened, the Lions lost on a Monday night game. Jim Caldwell came out and said, look, there is a ban on any of you guys talking about Batgate. Then they played the Arizona Cardinals at home, and Stafford looked atrocious, got benched, and the Lions got rolled. So I feel like Caldwell changed it up a little bit, and then he's allowed the guys to kind of talk about it. I think it'll get out of their system, but I have to have some doubt that if it's a shootout, I don't know if the Lions are up for the challenge.
I just want to be clear on a couple things here, right? The Lions had their opportunities to win this game and put this game away very early, all right? It didn't work out that way. They got down to the goal line. They got down to the half-yard line. And if you ask me, the call on the field was a touchdown. It should have stayed a touchdown, all right? So that's number one, all right? Number two, I think they have to run the ball. I know Amir Abdullah's not that guy, all right? And I get that. But I think you have to stick with the run. You have to at least demonstrate an ability to run the ball, whether it be effective or not. You have to be able to run the ball because you have to keep the defense honest. You have to be able to go out there and you have to be able to give it to the guy and let him try to pick up a yard or two here or there, because you got to keep them on their heels. Otherwise, they're just going to drop back and they're going to play prevent defense, and you're either going to dink and dunk all over them, and I know you hate that, or they're going to sit there and you're just going to throw interceptions. So you have to be able to present that you can at least run the ball and try to manufacture some offense out of that. Whether it be good or bad, you got to be able to present that, and you got to be able to do it on the regular basis. I agree with you. I think Bob Quinn's got to go out, and in this draft, he's got to address running back. He's got to go find a guy who can run between the tackles. He's got to find a guy who can grab an edge and sit there and possibly take it to the house, because Amir Abdullah is not that guy. He's a third down back. That's exactly what he is. He's a scat back. That's the same thing Theo Riddick is. He's a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he can pick you up some yards. That's what you got. The one thing I can say going into Game 4 of this season, we have a very good defense. We've got a very good defense. On top of that, we've got good special teams. Special teams play has been incredible. And look, special teams helped win you a game the other day, all right, a couple weeks ago. So it's key. Now, the offense, on the other hand, the offense has to start a little faster. I like the way they played this past week against Atlanta. I don't think they sat there and they shied away. I think they had a game plan going into it. They stuck to their game plan. It was to run the ball. Even though it wasn't effective, they still ran the ball. They took care of the ball the last two games. No interceptions from Matt Stafford. That's key. That's important. You got to be able to do that. The offense has to start faster. They have to figure out what's going on with that run game. And I need guys to catch passes. I need guys like Eric Ebron to sit there and come up with the ball when it's clutch, when it's money time. You know who's really good at it? Golden Tate's really good at it. Golden Tate got popped on that last drive. He got laid out. TJ Jones, same thing. I thought TJ Jones died. And I thought when he died holding onto a football. I thought they were going to have to go out there with the defibrillators and restart his heart because I thought he was dead.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? We have a good football team, something we haven't been able to say in a long time. Now the hard part's ahead of them. How do they respond this week? You can't sit there and you can't let this hang over their heads, and you can't let this break you down from the inside out. You got to sit there, you got to put it behind you, and you got to move forward. You need to go out and you need to thump the Vikings. You got to demolish them. Beat them so badly that they want to just sit there and wave the white flag in the fourth quarter. And that way you can sit there and move on and show everybody else that you are a good team. You are a top 10 team in the NFL. I may even go as so far as to say a top 5 team in the NFL.
So it's safe to say that the Kurt Angle You Suck Award is only going to one group of people. You suck. NFL screwing the Lions again.
And Dean Blandino, you suck the big one because I hate you.
It's about time, man. Someone's got to stand up for the Lions. Hell, we tried 2 years ago. We knew it was going to keep happening, but I agree. Make this a rallying cry. Get to 3-1. Let's make Sunday a nightmare for the Minnesota Vikings, and let's come back and restore the roar, baby. Detroit versus everybody. It's real. We have to combat the Zebras. We have to combat everybody because it's Detroit versus everybody. And I can't wait to see what happens on Sunday. You can follow along with us at Detroit Podcast as we rant and rave throughout the 2017 season. Now, you know what else got me ranting and raving? I was excited Saturday night, got everything done, got the popcorn ready, got a chance to sit and watch my Michigan State Spartans. And I'm like, okay, let's see them go back and forth. Let's see them compete. Let's see what they've learned. And I was like, oh no, this is not what I want to be seeing. You know what hurts though? is when you
LJ Scott fumbling in the end zone.
That massively hurts. When you play a team that has quality offensive talent and you make mistakes. Mistakes are so devastating in football. You see that, LJ Scott, you're right there at the goal line, would have been a 7-point game. That's a huge swing. And that's a guy, LJ Scott, this is one of the guys that you consider to be one of your leaders. And he's fumbling the football. You have turnovers. But in essence, what I recognize is how important in college football the quarterback position is. It is super important. And when the game starts off and Lewerke throws a pick six, you can't have that. It's a nightmare. It's devastating. When you throw interceptions, you have to play clean. And what Michigan State failed to do was play a clean game and give themselves an opportunity to compete. And unfortunately, versus Notre Dame, they got rolled. It wasn't a contest. It was a situation where Michigan State did not look like they belonged with Notre Dame. And it was tough, too, because you shot yourself in the foot multiple times. There were a lot of missed opportunities. You had chances early on to make some statements, and it didn't happen. But this is what happens when you have a young team. Most people, I said it, I didn't believe they could win. But in terms of the performance, that was quite surprising in terms of the mistakes that were made on the field.
Yeah, and again, it's a young team. Young team's going to make mistakes. I think Brian Lewerke is still learning the position. I think the biggest issue with this team right now is the play of LJ Scott. I think LJ Scott, like you said, he should know better at this point. I mean, this was a guy who was involved in one of the biggest plays in Michigan State Spartan history when he sat there and he stretched from the 1 yard line for the touchdown in the Big Ten championship game against Iowa. I mean, this is a guy who should know better. Sitting there running into the end zone and just holding the ball like it's a loaf of bread and fumbling it. That was a 14-point swing. If Michigan State scores right there, the score is 21-14. You're right there. You're right there with Notre Dame, and that turns the whole momentum around, and this game is looking totally different. Instead, you fumble it, they go down, now it's 28-7. And what are you doing? You're coming from behind. I mean, you can't do anything at that point. Mark D'Antonio has to do a better job of this is one thing I like about Jim Harbaugh, what he does. You have a running back who sits there, fumbles the ball, guess what? You don't see him for the rest of the game. You only see him if they're in mop-up duty.
Accountability.
Yeah. LJ Scott has none. The guy sits there and he spills the pill like he's got a Pez dispenser that's broken and he's shooting stuff everywhere. It's not. He needs to either get some stickum. He needs to sit there and learn how to hold the football. I don't know. Call Tiki Barber. He'll help you out. You need to figure something out there. This team is not as good as I think we thought it was. This team looks like it's probably going to be a 500 team, and maybe it's right where we thought it was. Then maybe it's right there. I thought going into this game, I thought this team was a little bit better. I thought we were going to see a little bit more compete out of them. I thought we were going to see something that rivaled a really good game. I thought Michigan State was going to sit there and dig down deep and bring something to the forefront and just basically restake their claim that, hey, we're not to be trifled with. We're a young team. We're a team that's in rebuild mode, and we're going to be good. We might not be great right now, but you know what? Next year you can count us in that hype. No, not at all. Michigan, dude, they're going to come into Michigan, and they're probably going to get steamrolled, and I hope they do.
Right now ahead for Michigan State is Iowa. They always play them close. It's going to be a contest. It's going to be a game where it's going to probably come down to the final couple possessions. But does it affect Michigan State going forward? I feel like they're going to compete. They're going to play well versus Iowa. Do they come away with the victory? I'm not exactly so sure. But I still feel like Mark D'Antonio, with a young team, is going to correct a lot of these things. Sometimes you got to have games like this where you can see some of the mistakes on film and try to correct it, but you're absolutely right.
There's a ton of mistakes.
A lot of mistakes. The offense has to do a lot better. The defense has to, close plays out and get the tackles, and they can't turn the ball over. You have to win the turnover margin in any contest. I think what we see, MSU is a 3.5 point dog right now. Or 3.5, is it 3.5 point favorite?
They are. They're giving up 3.5 points right now.
Okay, I see it to be a close contest, so I potentially would take Iowa plus 3.5.
I would too. I think Iowa's going to end up winning outright. I think Iowa's got a decent enough team, and I just don't like what I've seen from Michigan State. I mean, you had a bye week. You were at home. This game was so hyped. You were prime time, and you lose like that. It just left such a bitter taste in my mouth. And you know what? I was sitting there waving the flag for green and white. I said, hey, go Sparty. It's going to be a good game. I was over at my parents' house. I was watching the Michigan game with my stepdad, with his best friend, and our next door neighbor who's a gigantic Michigan State fan, right? And we're sitting there, we're having a legit conversation. And as he's getting ready to leave because he's going home to watch the Michigan State game, and I'm getting ready to leave to go home to sit there and get ready for bed because I'm like 80 apparently, and 8:30 rolls around and I got to take Jaredol and go to sleep, otherwise my joints hurt. I'm getting ready to walk out the door, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I was like, I think they're going to win today. Hopefully it's a really good game. I think you can expect a close one, but you know what? I think Michigan State's going to prove something. Oh, they proved something, all right. They proved that they're not ready for the big dance, and they're not ready for the show. They're not a good team right now.
Exactly, and that's what happens sometimes when you have a young team, is the bright lights come on and you crap the bed. And so that's why I'm not as angry as some, Michigan State supporters that are popular around town. I'm not as furious, but going forward, like in any situation, when you face
Michigan
adversity,
State's the best team in the MAC.
Yeah, when you face adversity, what do you do next? And you best believe if they perform shitty versus Iowa, you're going to be hearing some things. But what was the worst part of the weekend for me was watching Wilton Speight perform for Michigan. I got excited. I said, oh my gosh, in the coming weeks, I think Michigan led by Wilton Speight isn't going to take off. They're just going to be a middle-of-the-road team. They're going to suck. I think, you know what? At home versus Michigan State, maybe he'll fall under the pressure. Maybe we'll get a couple turnovers. The offense doesn't seem like they're going to score. Maybe we'll get like a 13-10 game where Michigan State might be able to pull it off late. Then all of a sudden, you hear the news. Uh-oh. Wilton Spate's no longer in the game, and out comes and out trots John O'Korn. And
Wilton
what does he
Speight
do?
might have died. They don't have an X-ray machine in Purdue.
Right.
How do you not have an X-ray machine?
Exactly.
What's going on? Aren't you a Big Ten university? What's up here?
What's worse, Purdue not having it, or the Big Ten not acknowledging it and evaluating it and letting it slide?
Look, Jim Delaney's a bum. Jim Delaney's a bum. You know what? He's absolutely atrocious. I can't stand Jim Delaney.
Right. It's like you never want a situation where the people overseeing things react to things too late.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Look at some of the reports.
He could have died, probably.
Yeah,
not.
look at some of the
But he
reports you
could've
see. Oakland County has a bunch of food testers going around checking restaurants, and they're like, no, your food, you can't be here. Your chicken can't be close to the bacon, and what are you guys doing? And all these reports are surfacing, and I'm never eating out again because, these restaurants are gross. But in terms of football, player safety, how do you allow Purdue to get away with that for the opposing team? That's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. But Michigan stumbled into a quarterback. John O'Korn led him into the end zone like damn near 3, 4, 5 times. And I was like, no. I feel like what John O'Korn provided Michigan was the swagger they needed to probably do some things. It does lead some people like myself maybe to go, Wilton Speight versus John O'Korn. How did Harbaugh pick Speight to be the guy and tap him when O'Korn comes in and on the field, boom, right away, you're saying like, this guy can help the team put the ball in the end zone, which was an amazing performance for them. And I think Michigan stumbled into their quarterback, and I virtually give State no chance if he performs how he did last week. Wow.
If Jim Harbaugh goes back to Wilton Spate's got to have some derogatory.
Nobody supports Speight, right?
No, you can't. Not at this point. Not after what you've seen from John O'Korn. And look, John O'Korn was playing with a little bit of gusto because the guy on the other end, on the other sideline, that was his former offensive coordinator. All right, and I think it was the guy who sat there and might have even benched him when he was playing for Oklahoma when he was over there, or Houston. I think he was from Houston. So he was playing with a little chip on his shoulder. But I think the biggest thing that came out of this game was they simplified the offense.
Yeah, I noted that. I'm like, this because the announcer said it, and I said, Adam said that.
Yeah, this is something we've been screaming about now because I think they expect this program to be so much further along, but again, you got to realize you got new pieces everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's along the offensive line. It's the wide receivers. I mean, I think what they ended up doing was they dumbed the playbook down a little bit. They made things a little bit more simple for the offensive line, which provided O'Korn a little bit more protection, a little bit more time, and they also figured out that they have tight ends and that you can use your tight end to catch a football. And they sat there and they were able to exploit that. Look, they've got some big, strong dudes who can move for tight end, right? And you've seen it there. The tight ends were the leading wide receivers in this game. I think you go with John O'Korn. I think you simplify the offense and you utilize your tight ends. Utilize what got you to the dance. And if you go back and you watch the way Michigan sat there and played so well the last 2 seasons, it's because they utilized their tight ends. I mean, that set up a lot because then it opens up some running lanes. It opens up the wide receivers. I mean, again, we talk about it all the time. You're a quarterback. What's your security blanket? It's always your tight end. And you've seen it in this game. The thing that I'm probably most scared about is that injury to Wilton Spate. And I know they came out and they said it was a soft tissue injury, but it looked like what happened to Tony Romo. It looked like the way he got hit and the way he was bent over, it was the same way Tony Romo got smoked from behind, and that ended up ending his career. I don't know if Wilton Spate's going to be able to come back for the Michigan State game. I don't know if Wilton Spate's going to end up coming back later on in the season. But for right now, I think it's John O'Korn's football team, and he needs to be taking all of the all first-team snaps.
Real quick. Happy, frustrated, cool. Michigan State, night game, 7:30 next week.
Oh, I'm pumped.
You like it?
I like it. This is this is for selfish reasons too. I'm a selfish bastard. I'm going to tell you.
You can nap.
Well, I'm going golfing in the morning. My sister was able to sit there and pull some strings, and I'm going to go golf at Indianwood.
Yep.
So that's going to be totally awesome. I'm going to lose like 15 golf balls because it's a very difficult course.
Yes.
So I get to go golf, and then I can go home. I can shower, change, and then I can just go get blackout drunk and watch the game. Hopefully we don't have a trouble with the snap moment where I'm just so upset and I'm so sad, and then I'm drunk tweeting you, and then the next day I got to wake up and I got to delete all those messages because I look like a complete ass. So hopefully we don't have any of that. But yes.
And boom goes the dynamite.
That's right.
It's going to be fun. I think that I'm hoping that the fans of Michigan and Michigan State can be cordial. There's no riots before the game. There's no protest before the game. It can just be the meeting of two football teams with a lot of drunk people, but maybe a happy party. Something where we can show the nation that, hey, everybody thought that we were going to, wild out and end up on funny brawls or anything like that, but it's going to be a wild contest, but with the extra week, I give Michigan the edge, and I think that Michigan State might come and beat up a little bit too, because Iowa's no joke. They're going to be serious, and I think that it all plays itself out in Michigan's favor this go-around, and it's expected. So I don't think there's going to be a lot to gain for Michigan facing Michigan State other than trying to get out of the game, healthy and really, making sure that you put on a performance that's going to appease the fan base, because while it is a rivalry game, on paper, Michigan's better than Michigan State. It's a game where everybody says it. The trenches are going to determine who wins the game. Whoever runs the football, whichever squad has a team that wins the running game battle, usually wins the game. And I think that Michigan has a chance to wear Michigan State down. And it's going to be, hopefully, a fun contest. Late at night on a Saturday. It's probably not going to end until 11:30, 11:45.
Yeah, looking into my crystal ball right now and just trying to kind of predict what might happen. I think Michigan's defense is that good. I think it's one of the best in all of college football right now. So I think Lewerke's going to have a little bit of trouble. I think LJ Scott, if he's going to be the starter, if they don't go to Madre London or somebody else, I don't care who, go dig an 80-year-old man off the sideline and put him in a Vespa back there. It doesn't matter, right? Somebody else besides LJ Scott. But if LJ Scott's out there, I'm expecting at least 2 turnovers from him. So I think that defense is going to swarm that Michigan State offense. On the flip side, I think John O'Korn, you just have to go in there, manage the game, utilize your tight ends, set up the run game, like you said, run the football, control the clock, and sit there and put points on the board. I mean, going into this last game against Purdue, Michigan had the absolute worst red zone offense, and they were able to sit there, go into this game, and I think they got 2 or 3 touchdowns in the red zone, which is a great sign because this was a team that had won going into game 4. You know what I'm saying? That's awful. So I think control the clock. John O'Korn, don't try to do too much. Don't be too big for your britches, and just let that defense do what that defense does.
And next week, definitely, we'll show out. We'll try to get as many guests as we can, and maybe even an in-studio guest to break down Michigan State. We're going to have a bunch of fun because that's what this project is all about. Great opening segment talking football.
Is that like an hour?
Yeah, 50 minutes. Good opening segment. That's why we can. That's why we love doing podcasts. We can roll on. We can have segments as long as we want, but we're going to take a quick time out, regroup, drink some water, maybe something else too. Come back, talk Detroit Tigers and professional wrestling in the second half of the Doc and Jock podcast. Doc and Jock here for Podomatic.com, our host site. If you're looking to start a brand new project, and why wouldn't you? When a podcast can become a credentialed media outlet, why wouldn't you start a podcast and see what you can do with it? We recommend one host site, Podomatic. Why? Because of the fact that you can generate links easily. All the links that we've generated have been heard across the country, overseas. Super easy to use. When Adam and I record a podcast, we upload it to Podomatic within 5 or 10 minutes, and boom, all of our supporters can hear our great podcast, all of our great interviews, and heck, nowadays a lot of guests are wanting to come by Sterling Heights and figure out who are Doc and Jock. Who's this Vito cat? Who's Jason Jarvie? Who is Jerry Mallory? Who are these guys running this podcast network? They don't sound like they're in the basement. Why, you ask? Because we use a great host site. Doc and Jock recommend Podomatic.com. So the Detroit Tigers pull the trigger. Al Avila's a boss, comes out last week and says, look, we ain't resigning Brad Ausmus. He ain't the guy anymore. And it's done. The Brad Ausmus era is over. And the worst part, cuz, is we told you. And damn, once I figured out how to pull up old tweets, you know I was going back to the day when Brad Ausmus was hired. And, hey, we're accountable. Definitely we're not going to look up the stuff we got wrong because it's pretty much equal. But we were right on Brad Ausmus, and we're going to sit here and tell you that we were right because we put it on paper, baby. We tweeted it out. The part, though, if you really want to be critical, is I said that Brad Ausmus is probably going to have success with another team. I don't know about that, but I was right in saying that he's going to struggle. There's going to be a lot of pressure on him. And 4 years ago, man, we were talking about this shit 4 years ago in 2013. We were like, what the hell are they doing? You know, that's right around the time we were still kind of figuring shit out. But we at least had our wits about us and said, look, Brad Ausmus, January 2014, fuck, they messed up.
Did you pop bottles when you heard the news? Because you were saying that you were super excited.
Oh, yeah, I was excited.
You couldn't wait for him to go away.
Oh, my gosh. 14 season, 15 season, 16 season, 17 season. You didn't really accomplish much of anything. You got to the postseason, got destroyed by Baltimore. You know, you had a couple of games here and there, but there weren't really a lot of great memories that you can talk about. I mean, his rant was an epic thing. You know, the way he conducted himself, I guess, was professional. But in terms of on the field, in terms of what we saw in player development, the repeated mistakes, the way he addressed things, the smug nature in which he would answer questions, I just felt like early on, you saw it in that series versus Baltimore. He was outclassed. Buck Showalter wiped the floor with Brad Ausmus in terms of the proper use of the bullpen, in terms of, proper baseball management. Brad Ausmus, that first year, you could give him a pass, but it never got any better. You know, in terms of when you ask questions is, you know what? Yeah, you could say it was too easy to formulate a judgment on Brad Ausmus, but all we were reacting to was what everybody else saw. We watch the games. We see the players. We ask ourselves, are they getting better? Are they getting worse? Are they making some simple plays like, hey, get the ball in the outfield and throw it to the cutoff man consistently? Are they a team that looks like they're going to make progress and get better? No. You saw what he was able to do with quality talent. Look, unfortunately, you can make excuses for how the team's performing this September, but this team looks like a mess. And I know you sold off all the quality talent, but the guys that are showing up, they look like they're just like eating cake, getting high in the dugout, and showing up and playing baseball. There's nothing. They've won 4 games in the entire month of September. 4 games. Now, is the team competing? A little bit more often than not, but the writing was on the wall, and everybody knew it. So you can poo-poo us and say, oh, you're just podcasters or you're just guys giving opinion, but we have sports-minded brains. We can give opinions. Some of them are right. Some of them are wrong, but you can call me a podcaster or just some blogger fan or whatever you want to call me, fanboy. But in the end, when you look at an opinion, we gave it. And why is it that our opinion's right and the general manager couldn't figure it out? That's the part you got to ask yourself is, Al Avila's getting paid 50,000 times more than we are, and he's stuck with Brad Ausmus. He's stuck with him. I would have fired Al Avila too, right on the spot. The second he says, Brad's out, Al's gone too.
So back in August 6th, what was this, 2013? No, October 24th, I'm sorry, October 24th, 2013, we did a top 10 Leland replacements on our blog. I just went back and found it. Thank God for the internet. It saves everything.
Yeah.
So Brad Ausmus was the 6th best choice at the time. I gave him a 3 out of 5 for a fit. The possibility of it happened, I gave a 4 out of 5, and then broke down his Tiger ties. And let's see, what did I say here? I said at 44, the San Diego Padres special assistant to baseball operations wants to be the freshest face in coaching and is the odds-on favorite for this job per the Las Vegas line. Then I give a link to that. Ausmus has no experience managing, but was considered by most to be a brilliant defensive catcher and an incredibly smart catcher. and one of the most respected game callers and pitching staff handlers in the game. How'd that work out with the bullpen? Not real good.
Right.
I'm not sure this will translate into a World Series ring or not. Ausmus may be better suited to be the guy who follows the guy. Right guy, wrong situation.
That's not bad. He riding the fence a little gently with a little hint of an opinion. I just said, hell no, this ain't gonna work.
You had no idea who this guy really was when he was coming out.
Right.
I thought that was a pretty accurate assessment, and we sat there, we basically said, probably not going to work out, right?
Right?
You're right. I did ride the fence a little bit there, but I mean, we didn't know anything about this cat at the time. We do now, and look, I feel like what Al Avila did was just brutal. I thought the way he handled this entire situation was wrong. All right, from the hiring of Brad Ausmus to the firing of Brad Ausmus, and it wasn't really firing. He's getting let go. They're not renewing his contract. All right, but you come out on a Friday afternoon, basically on a news dump day, and you're like, we're not re-signing him. It's what it is. Mind you, they still have 12 games left in the season. So now this guy has to deal with this hanging over his head, and you could totally tell the team's checked out. The team probably checked out back in August, right? And the guys who haven't checked out, they're done now. I mean, you said it yourself. They've won 3 games in September? Come on.
4, and they've looked horrible. They've been blown out by 8 runs or more multiple times, so it's been bad.
I mean, it just absolutely abysmal. You don't sit there and you don't hang your coach out to dry like that. This is something that you wait till the end of the year. And look, Brad Ausmus knew his future. Him and Al Avila had conversations. He knew he wasn't coming back, but he couldn't come out and say that. Al Avila comes out and drops this bomb last Friday afternoon. It was just disrespectful to do to your manager, and it was disrespectful to do to your team and your organization, because now they've got to field these questions, and they've got to deal with this until the very end of the season. You sit there, you wait until the very final game of the season. At the end of the season, if you want to do it that day, you can do it if you want, but I'd probably wait 24 to 48 hours and then come out and say, look, we're not going to renew him. We're going to go in a different direction. I just think the way Al Avila has handled certain situations, you can tell there's a learning curve, and I think we expected there to be a learning curve coming off of Dave Dombrowski, but he's just handled a lot of situations horribly, and he's put this team behind the 8 ball. I mean, you come out in the offseason, you say, look, everybody's up for sale. Whatever you guys want, just come and make me offers. I don't care. I'm going to take a whole bag of balls and a set of tube socks. And you know what? If you use those tube socks for what little boys use tube socks for, I'll even take those. I'll scratch the crust off. It doesn't matter to me. And then you sit there, you turn around, and people are sitting there offering you basically used tube socks with man goo on them that has dried up, and you're like, no. I need your best prospect for this guy. Well, that's not what you just said. Why am I going to give you that when you were just sitting there claiming that you want a bag of balls and used tube socks? You know what I'm saying? And then you do this at the end of the season. It's just been one misstep after another for this guy. Look, the thing about Al Avila that was supposed to be spot on is he's really good at talent evaluation and appraising players and what they should project to in the major leagues. All right. Hopefully he hit a couple stars here with his trades that happened. I think Candelario looks good. It sounds like some of the guys in the minor leagues might be able to come up and provide some help next year, if not next year, the year after that. So this team looks like it has a little bit of a future to it. But geez Louise, man, you better hit on a couple of these guys. You need to pull out at least 2, maybe 3 stars, and then you need to pull out at least 2 guys, maybe 3 guys who are everyday players who are capable.
And when you read between the tea leaves, you kind of know what's happened now in that clubhouse. Brad Ausmus, unfortunately, when you're there 4 years and it doesn't go great, some of the players tuned him out. He said it multiple times, there needs to be a new voice. So what does that mean? That means I believe that Brad Ausmus recognized that, Victor Martinez is chirping. Justin Verlander and Miggy and Victor have kind of chirped at each other back and forth. I feel like Brad Ausmus lost control of that clubhouse, which sometimes happens in sports. And once he realized, they're not listening to me anymore, it's not the same kosher environment that it used to be. And probably the organization, and I'm just speculating, probably talked to Miguel, talked to some of the foreign players, talked to some of the leaders, a.k.a. Ian Kinsler, and they probably said, look, he's not the guy. And so I think behind the scenes, the dugout and the players, the leaders went up and said, look, he lost the clubhouse. It's a mess. Victor Martinez is chirping a lot. His performance is not warranting him to be allowed to be chirping like this. And when you hear reports that he was a cancer, oh my goodness. Unfortunately, you hate to say this, but we all kind of hope maybe he looks at his situation and calls it a career. But more often than not, when you see the money he's owed, he's going to be back next year. And so that leads me to believe that when the word is new voice, I'm hearing a different thing. I'm hearing foreign voice. So I'm hearing that
You're an Ozzie
I'm hearing potentially an Alex Cora, somebody that can relate to some of the Venezuelan players, the Dominican players. So I'm thinking along the lines of maybe eliminating Gabe Kapler, Manny Acta, Ron Gardenhire. I'm thinking the next manager could be Omar Vizquel. I'm thinking the next manager, more likely than not, in terms of odds, is probably going to be a an individual that speaks a foreign language that can relate better to a larger influx of talent that the Tigers have, in my opinion.
I got you. Victor Martinez owed $18 million next year.
He's going to come collect
his
it.
Contract, yeah. And he's 39. Look, I think Victor Martinez became a cancer to this locker room probably about a year and a half, 2.5 years ago. I think it was that first season Ausmus was here. They were able to get to the playoffs. Things kind of seemed a little bit shaky at times. That following season, I believe Martinez got hurt. And I think when he was trying to come back, I think at that point he's seen the writing on the wall. He was like, this guy doesn't have it. This guy doesn't have the control. And we've discussed it a couple of times on a couple of different shows. It never seemed like Brad Ausmus had the ability to sit there and go to certain players and be like, look, you're sitting. It's just the way it's going to be. You know what I'm saying? It never seemed like he had the gusto or the ability to sit there and trump certain guys in that locker room. And that's an issue. If your coach can't sit there and tell a player, look, you can't do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're the manager of this ball club. You better be able to sit there and say, look, you're sitting because you're not playing good enough. Or, you know what? I know you're Victor Martinez, and I know you like to sit there and bat fourth, but guess what? You're hitting like a girl right now, all right? I know sissies who hit better than you, so guess what? You're going to go bat 7th, 8th, or 9th, wherever I feel you need to go. Jim Leyland had that power. Jim Leyland had that command. If you didn't like what Jim Leyland said, he didn't care. He'd put his lit cigarette out on your eyeball and tell you to man up and deal with it, all right? Brad Ausmus didn't have that. And I think right around, I don't know, it was probably the year and a half mark of the Brad Ausmus tenure, I think Victor Martinez started to tune him out, and it came full head when they sat there and they had that huge brawl. You had the huge brawl with New York, and Victor Martinez is out there palling around with guys who are sitting there basically giving nut shots to your all-star first baseman. You know what I'm saying? And then you've seen it in the dugout when Justin Verlander basically flipped him off and said, you know what? Get the hell out of here, go fly a kite. And Nick Castellanos was like, dude, you're a dick. And that's basically what it was. So I would hope at this point Victor Martinez wouldn't come back, or they would just cut bait with him, just pay him off. Here's your 18 mil, go someplace else. Because this going into next season and going forward, this team, there's a whole lot going on, right? You've got a lot of young players. You've got a lot of young talent. There's a lot of different voices. And you've already sat there and you've blown out a lot of the old guard. You know what I'm saying? This has to be a new team. It has to be a fresh start. There's no reason to bring a locker room cancer back. Sometimes the best way to move forward and the best way for a team to get better is to sit there and cut bait with a guy who's a bad locker room presence. You know what I'm saying? It works out the best. And if this guy's going to sit there and he's going to demean whoever the next new manager is, you can't have that. So it'd probably be best just to buy him out, because there's nobody who's going to trade for this guy. I don't think he has any knees left. How many ACLs has he gone through already? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think he's on like his 5th cadaver ACL in one of his knees. So you can't sit there and you can't trade for this dude. Nobody wants him. Nobody wants that contract. The Tigers don't even want to pay that contract. So you got to sit there. You got to unload him, whether you buy him out or maybe he just retires if you're lucky. Let him retire. Let him ride off into the sunset.
Is there a name that you potentially could throw out there that you'd want to be the manager of the Tigers? Because most pundits are saying, look, this next guy is going to handle a bunch of young players, probably going to be the true definition of a stopgap. Anybody that piques your interest, or do you care at all?
I do care, because I think you need to bring somebody in who can sit there and really help mold these guys. That was the one bonus that Brad Ausmus was supposed to bring to this club. He was supposed to be able to sit there and reach the younger players and help them develop. And I think Brad Ausmus's job might be better suited on somebody else's bench, maybe not as the manager, but just, another coach, an assistant coach or an assistant manager in that dugout. I would probably like to see Omar Vizquel, I guess, get a shot, get an opportunity. I'd be interested to see how that interview process goes with him. I don't want Lloyd McClendon if you're staying in-house. If you go outside, I really don't want Manny Acta. I don't want Ozzie Guillen. I like Ozzie Guillen, but I don't want Ozzie Guillen as the manager of this team, because I feel like he'll sit there and he'll take a baseball bat, snap it in half, and use it as a trident and kill somebody. So I think you're on the right track where it's going to probably be a foreign manager, somebody from Hispanic descent. They're going to be able to come in and they'll be able to connect with some of these younger players. But the next coach that comes in here, the next manager has to be able to get through to these young players and have to be able to really help shape and mold them.
You said it. Now, before we talk about pro wrestling,
it's a coach a lot too, and there's no coaches in baseball; they're all managers. I do know that. It's just old habits.
Before we talk about professional wrestling and what a weekend it was, I just want to tell everybody thank you for your continued support. I mean, my goodness, Adam and I couldn't be able to roll out this many podcasts, be able to have now great contacts with PR staffs at college universities and the professional teams without your continued support. So we thank you. The hub of the operation is at DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's where you can go to click through the Amazon banner, buy tickets. You can support those who support us. Definitely click through the tab that says supporters, click through the tab that says sponsors, and when you do that, it lets them know, hey, yes, we want to continue to work with the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. And most importantly, if you want to interact with us during the sporting events, you want to hear uncensored, unfiltered sports take, follow us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. Follow Adam at Adam RSTROZ. We're always having fun via our social media platform, so it's all good, brother. All right. The week that was in terms of professional wrestling, my goodness, there was a lot to dig into. But first, I want to tackle my thoughts on No Mercy. My thoughts on No Mercy are this. I thoroughly enjoyed the show. Now,
even though the last two matches were kind of...
That's the part where I say, you know what? When you grade a pay-per-view, you have to give more weight to the stuff that happens at the top. So what happened with Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar was totally mishandled, totally botched. So the John Cena match is one that I didn't expect a whole heck of a lot, but in terms of what they delivered, I was okay with it. But leading up to the final two matches, everybody balled out. It was kind of, my thought was, watching it was like, oh, it kind of seems to me like there was going to be a bonus for whoever put on the best match, because the first 4 or 5 matches, it seemed like it kind of built to a crescendo. Each match was trying to do something. They were balling out. They were wrestling. And the tag team match
was very good.
The undercard was very good. And I thought the tag team match was one where you could have got engaged very easily into the match. I thought the chemistry between Sheamus and Cesaro was awesome with Rollins and Dean Ambrose. Ooh, gruesome injury to Cesaro. Yeah. But then when you transition and evaluate the final 2 matches, you go, Cena Reigns could have been more. You could have thought they could have had a much more epic clash. You kind of went into a situation where one spear basically did the job, whereas John Cena got to execute 5 AAs on Roman Reigns.
And who kicks out of 5 AAs?
Exactly. It's one of those situations where...
Obviously not protecting that finish.
No doubt about it. So what was your takeaway from No Mercy?
I thought it was an okay show. Like you said, the final 2 matches leave a lot to be desired. I thought the build up to it left you wanting more. And then you were basically left underwhelmed. You know, I don't like the way that Braun Strowman was handled. Look, you did a great job building up this guy to be a complete monster, an unstoppable beast. You know what I'm saying? He goes around killing everybody and crushing everything. And then you give him like 9 minutes and basically he gets smushed. You know what I'm saying? And now we've got a WWE champion who's not going to be on any pay-per-views until next year. You got a WWE champion who's not going to defend the belt for a while, and this is all going to end up building to WrestleMania, where Roman Reigns is going to take on Brock Lesnar for the championship. And I think that's a total misappropriation of the belt, and I think it's a total mishandling of the belt, because you don't have your belt on TV. You don't see your champion ever. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a horrible mistake. On top of that, you sat there and you invested all this time, all this energy into building this character with Braun Strowman. You basically put in, I don't know, almost 11 months worth of work into this one guy for what? For Brock to come out and just smush him?
Right, exactly.
What was the point?
It's like you rushed through the main event. Yeah. It's like, no, give Brock some time. Let these guys tell a story. You felt like they had, better matchups earlier this year. Yeah. Brock Lesnar has done some things. Braun Strowman has done some things. It seems like you built it up and then boom, okay, it's done.
Yep.
And that was that. But I understand the thinking is now you're continuing to put over Brock Lesnar, but he's already there. He's the guy. So having Brock...
Sorry, I got distracted. There were some chicks outside.
So having Brock Lesnar win the matchup, when's he going to lose? Who's the guy?
It's going to be Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. And that's my biggest problem, is you're not going to see him for a while. He's going to be MIA. And that's a huge issue if You know, you sit there and you build your wrestling organization around guys who you feel can be champion, right? And your champion has to sit there and be at the shows. I don't need him to wrestle every week, but at least come out. You know what I'm saying? At least come out every other show, you know? And you get none of that. Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen here, all right? Because we're going to get a Shield reunion. And this I guess is probably the best way to get into Raw right now, all right? You're going to get a Shield reunion. You've seen what the Miz Taraz did to Roman Reigns this past week. They basically annihilated him with chairs. And they sat there and they teased it in the little Miz TV segment, all right? So Roman Reigns is going to end up pairing up with Dean Ambrose.
Survivor Series maybe style situation?
Probably. And Seth Rollins. They're all going to team up. They're going to take on the Miz, all right? That's going to end up spiraling off into another match where Roman Reigns is going to beat the Miz for the IC belt. Now he's, the grand champion or whatever. He's basically won and held every single belt that WWE has. So he's like one of like 4 or 5 guys to ever have done that. He'll end up dropping it probably back to the Miz because I don't know who else in WWE should hold the IC belt. I mean, I feel like Miz has elevated that title and has made it something worth watching and worth fighting for. So they're going to have that. Reigns will then go on to take on Lesnar, and it'll be the 2 guys who sat there and defeated The Undertaker, and Reigns will beat Lesnar for the belt. And that's what's going to happen.
WrestleMania moment next year will be Raw.
That's what's going to happen. He's going to headline like the next 7 WrestleManias. Yeah. I mean, you've seen this was the passing of the torch where John Cena sits there and he puts over Roman Reigns. The guy sat there and took 5 AAs. Nobody takes 5 AAs. Nobody. Most guys are done after 1, maybe 2. This guy took 5. How many Superman punches did it take to knock out John Cena? How many spears did it take to knock out John Cena? I mean, come on. You know, and it's just, this is what it's going to be. They have hitched their wagon to Roman Reigns. It is now the Roman Reigns train, and this is where we're going. He's got his first stop with the IC belt, and then after that, it's on to WrestleMania to fight Lesnar. And in between all this, you're going to have your Shield reunion 5 years later.
Okay, what do you think of Raw? I thought it was okay. I mean, I really thought that Miz TV was excellent, kind of setting it up a little bit for Miz versus Roman Reigns. And I thought that, you know what, this is kind of cool. I mean, but at the same time, when you evaluate where Miz is at, I kind of want to see him now take that next step and maybe potentially beat Roman Reigns consistently a little bit here and there and let him kind of, you know, elevate himself just a little bit more than where he is. Because now he just sounds like a complaining bitch all the time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So at this point in time with The Miz, I agree with what he's saying. He's carrying the shows. He's an elevated character. This is a guy that can do some things in the ring. You believe his stuff.
It's the only belt that's on TV right now.
He's exactly right in what he's saying, but I kind of want to see him kick ass more and talk less. He's been doing a lot of talking.
There's a lot of talking.
A lot of talking, right?
That's the one thing that Miz is really good at. He's phenomenal at talking. But you know what? You're right. There's going to have to be some back and forth with him and Roman Reigns. Reigns is going to have to sit there and give the rub to the Miz. And Miz is going to have to win a couple of these matches. You can't just have Roman Reigns sit there and slaughter him. It's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? But I think what will end up happening, we'll have our Shield reunion. And then, like I said, from there, we're going to sit there, separate. And the Miz and Reigns will end up having their own segment. And that's going to probably have a lengthy build to it because I don't see them having anything else for these guys to do. On top of that, what better way to sit there and send Miz off TV, right? You sit there, you have Reigns just brutalize the Miz, win the IC belt. Miz goes off TV. Maurice has her baby. He comes back. It might all work out with WrestleMania being right around that time. He can get his belt back if that's the case. And we go from there. Do you know what I'm saying? I've already explained what's going to happen going forward. But I see that's kind of how this should build and how this should work. I think Raw overall was decent. I found myself much more interested in what was going on in Raw and the storytelling aspects of it than SmackDown for a comparison. But I thought it was pretty good. You know, look, Jeff Hardy's banged up right now, so Matt Hardy's...
That was tough, right?
Matt Hardy's going to end up having to team
Are we ever going to see
Jason
the full broken gimmick? I mean, what's it going to take for us to get this? I mean, it's kind of one of those situations where you ask for it enough, you stop caring once it happens. If they did, now's the time to do it.
It would be the time to do it. I don't think we're going to get the broken gimmick. They might alter it a little bit and tweak it so they can get it by. I mean, look, Matt Hardy has claimed that he's going to sue, Impact, GFW, whatever it is now. It's not GFW anymore. The old TNA is going through another name change, which is absolutely ridiculous. You just spent all this money, got new belts made with GFW all over them. But whatever.
They're not GFW anymore?
No, it's like Impact, I think. They said that they got rid of Jeff Jarrett, and they never consummated that deal for GFW to come over. So now it's just like Impact Wrestling. You spent all this money on these new championship belts that look pretty decent, and now you got to go through this. I don't know. They're a complete mess over there, right? Let me put it this way. Their biggest show, was it Bound for Glory? Their biggest show is going to be in a 500-seat arena. Oh. This is normally an arena that is saved for doing like old people's brunches. Like when like your church group gets together and they all come in, that's what this arena is going to be. It's this very small, quaint area. I mean, your biggest show of the year, you can't sell this out in like a 15,000 seat stadium or a 10,000 seat stadium. You're going to basically go to a bingo hall. Like you're supposed to be the second biggest wrestling brand out there, and this is what you're doing. You're going to a 500 seat venue. Okay, cool, good job. Dude, Impact is a complete mess right now. So they're not going to give up that gimmick unless somebody's paying for it. And I don't think Vince is going to pay for it. And I don't think Matt's got the money to buy it.
Now, the one complaint that I had with Raw was I don't want to see Enzo ever at the 10 o'clock hour. I know he went off and he had himself a great promo. I thought it was well done. I just didn't want to see it at the main event. I felt like some of the other matchups could have taken that spot. I want to see wrestling from 10:45 to 11:05. That's just the time you wrestle. I don't want to see grand celebrations at that time. I don't want to see 20-minute promos at that time. And to have it go down like that, it was cool to see Neville destroy Enzo, but at the same time, I'm just not personally fond of a celebration for Enzo Amore.
No, and he's full-blown heel now, right?
Yeah.
And I think we all agree, and I think at this point, Neville is probably a babyface. If not, he's maybe a gray character. Some things that I really liked out of Raw this week, I liked the Alexa Bliss segment. Mickie James came out and basically was like, look, you may have beat everybody, but you ain't beat me, and she looked good. She looked real good. So like she had that whole like MILF look going for her. She was A1 this week. Strowman ends up killing Ambrose. Do you think that maybe was some heat for what happened with Cesaro and his teeth? Did that dawn on you at all? Did you maybe see it that way, or you're just like, oh, we're just got to get him in a segment here?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right. Because I was like, well, maybe there's some heat for what happened with Cesaro. I mean, I seen I rewatched the spot.
No, when you look at it, you could say that's another situation where Braun Strowman destroys, because he's going to fight Seth Rollins next week, where maybe he goes a little bit extra with Seth, and then now Roman Reigns is a tie with Braun Strowman, so maybe
he destroys everybody in the Shield.
Exactly,
maybe
and
the Shield
potentially gets some kind of maybe teaser in terms of what you set up in terms of introducing Braun into the mix of destroying Ambrose, destroying Rollins, and maybe doing a little extra, and maybe Roman comes out and we continue that long-standing feud between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman.
I like where your head's at. I didn't think about that. That's good. Good storytelling there.
Mm-hmm. So now we transition over to SmackDown. I was just turned off. I mean,
I was bored.
I tweeted you
really
right away when it happened. When the first segment happened, I'm like, okay, Kevin Owens is doing his thing. And then again, once I hear that music in regards to Sami Zayn, it just killed my vibe. Yeah. It killed my chub. I was done. You know what I mean? I was done, and I was done.
You were at half mass, ready to go full, and
it was gone.
It crawled inside you.
I never felt the same about the whole show. I felt like, I know our friends at Breaking Down the Ring feel like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens put on great matches. I mean, yeah, they fought 700,000 times, and I don't want to see it ever again. I thought when you have a gimmick that goes, these guys will never fight again, and then they're fighting again a couple months later, it's like, come on, you remember what you guys said? We're all happy that you guys did that. So it killed the vibe for me. And then they did a couple things I didn't like was, I like Jinder Mahal's music. I don't want to see him in the ring. I want to see the entrance music. Yeah. More than seeing him battle Shinsuke Nakamura, I want to see his entrance. I like that, where the Singh brothers go, this is Jinder Mahal, and they play the music, and it takes them a long time. Everything else after that is standard. He'll be racist, or he'll comment on Shinsuke. Did you like
that he sat there and he acknowledged what happened last week?
Yeah, I mean, of course he had to. I liked
it too. I thought it was good.
So I liked... seeing Dolph Ziggler being under Ziggler, and then Bobby Roode coming out. That was cool.
That was great. Dude, Dolph Ziggler
was the under Ziggler. Under Ziggler, that was funny.
Was outstanding.
It was good stuff.
That music hit, and I was like, oh, wait. Oh, no, this is Dolph Ziggler. Like, it almost had me. Like, I was like, I sat up in my seat like, wait, really? Yeah. And then I was like, no, you're just messing with me. I know who this is. And then he came out. He looked like he was a great Halloween costume. I thought that was probably one of the best parts of SmackDown was Dolph Ziggler coming out acting like an ass. I even have it in our show sheet. I said Dolph Ziggler is an asshole, LOL. Yeah. And he is the best Halloween costume.
So you're right. Yep, he's gonna feud with Bobby Roode, and it'll be probably a very decent feud for Bobby Roode. Probably he should win.
Oh, well, of course. Here's the thing. Dolph Ziggler's contract's almost up, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you this is inside this is
the inside scoop is he's gone.
For the smart fan.
He gone.
He's going to transition. He's going to leave WWE. He's very upset with the way his character has been portrayed in the things that they have him doing. It feels like he should be much more over than what he is. So he'll probably go to the Indies. He'll probably try to do what
Cody Rhodes is doing.
Exactly. And he also does his own stand-up comedy. So he wants to invest more time into that and do more of that. So he's got his own things going on. He's going to be transitioning from WWE. He'll probably come back in a few years. You never know. But you're right, man. I thought SmackDown was boring.
What'd you think of the main event? Did you watch it?
I watched the whole thing. Dude, I gotta watch it. It's horrible. I much rather, you know how many programs I gotta watch on Tuesday? Like my wife looks at me, she's like, "Do we have to watch this?" And I'm like, "Yes, I've got to do it for the show. It's what I got to do." And she was like, "But we've got NCIS, what
other this Vegas, Chicago,
like all the NCISs I gotta watch. I got Bull. I've got I got like 15 other channels and shows I gotta watch." And she's like, "Damn it, this sucks." And I'm like, "I know, I'm sorry, but I gotta watch it." So I watched it. I mean. Look, I like the whole Rusev bit. Yeah. I couldn't stand Aiden English singing, and I don't need to hear that. But I like when like him getting RKO'd out of nowhere, like legitimately out of nowhere. What I thought was better was Randy Orton's interaction in the back with Renee Young, where he's like, "Hey, leave a message for me to this," and she does a good job. She's like the one back show host who actually has a personality, can actually hold a microphone, walk and talk and chew bubblegum all at the same time and not sound like a robot like Dasha Fuentes, who's hot, but she's like an android. It's awful. Anyways, I like that segment. I like how after he dismantled everything. The best part is, I don't know if you follow Rusev on Twitter. You should. He's a great follow. All right, so somebody ends up tweeting with Randy Orton's picture where he's up on the ring ropes like this and something about RKO out of nowhere, or Randy Orton's the man, something along those lines. And Rusev sits there and quote tweets him and says, "Yeah, bro, who cares? It was Rusev Day." He's got a great personality. I really wish they would let him expose his personality more. Because I think he's awesome. He's actually a really funny guy. I feel like they have him boxed into this character, which sucks.
So you and I probably are in agreement that Raw won the week.
Yes,
Raw wins the week. Even though they highlighted Enzo Amore, even though that he is the champ, which is unbelievable. But when they say that the YouTube views go from 200,000 to 1 million, unfortunately, you might not like his wrestling, but all eyes are on Enzo Amore right now.
And here's the thing, right? During his
style over substance,
that's right,
is what's going on.
That's what it is. And during his promo, he sat there and he cut down that entire cruiserweight division.
Seemed easily
he cut the entire show down. And then Neville comes out and he kind of cut the show down too.
Yeah.
I mean, it just the whole cruiserweight division has just been mishandled and is brutal. Look, when WCW had their cruiserweights,
it was must see.
Yeah, they did such a great job.
Parka,
dude, you
Dean
had guys.
Malenko.
That's where Chris Jericho came from.
Yeah.
Chris Jericho's one of my all-time faves. Dean Malenko's matches were great. Eddie Guerrero, everybody loves Eddie Guerrero. From there, Rey Mysterio. All those guys were cruiserweights on WCW. What are we going to ever do if we ever disagree on Raw or SmackDown, one being better than the other? Because right now,
we'll debate it. That's
we're 5 for 5.
Yeah, we'll debate it, and we'll just see where we can decide. One of us will back down, and probably be you. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John McAroon. Thank you so much for tuning in. It makes it fun when people say, hey, they're enjoying a cup of coffee, listening to Doc and Jock with their pets, or on the road during long trips, or when we're covering the Pistons or Oakland basketball or Detroit Mercy, when you guys say, hey, keep up the good work. We greatly appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us via our social media platforms. Thank you for finding us across the numerous platforms we put podcasts. You see, they're all around, and I like to think we're just a little piece of the puzzle as to why podcasts have blown up here in Metro Detroit. Thanks, everybody. Really enjoyed this podcast.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Go Lions. Go green. Go white.
And boom goes the dynamite.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick. Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head, they counsel me, they understand, they talk to me. They talk to me.